Hello folks, and welcome to this week's Hi-Fi News, etc. And before we get to the news, trivia. Now, last week's trivia had a sort of literary theme, and I quite enjoyed that, so I'm going to do that again. Literature. And this week's question is pretty short and sweet, and it is, which band took their name from a novel originally published in France in 1956 under the title La Chute? Need a hint? Well, the novel may have been released in 1956, but the band that derived their name from it was much more recent. Think, what, 70s? Could be a tricky trivia question for you. I'll have the answer at the end of the video. Until then, let's start with some news. And we're beginning with the musical Fidelity M6X 250.7, which fairly trips off the tongue, doesn't it? This is a Class AB home cinema power amplifier, and it's the first of 3 models in a new range, and it sits somewhere in the middle of that planned range. Do I have to say it again? Oh, okay. The M6X 250.7 offers 7 channels, and they're divided into 7 individual modules, each pumping out 250 watts for home cinema use. Now, I say 250 watts, but that's into 4 ohms. I don't have a published figure for 8 ohms, but generally speaking, I would halve that, so 125 watts as a guess. Even so, that modular build should help to keep the noise floor right down. Featuring single-ended and balanced connections, the company was eager to emphasize the silent nature of the supporting transformers, which apparently should aid detail extraction. The level of low noise is apparently supported by the metal chassis, which does not feature a built-in fan. Instead, it provides a complex heatsink arrangement. This is a heavy box at 32.5 kilograms, while spanning 450 millimeters by 195 by 435 millimeters. Price for this one is £3,099. Next up, we're looking at the AT-MC 2022 from Audio-Technica. This is a cartridge. The limited edition AT-MC 2022 dual moving coil stereo cartridge has been announced to celebrate Audio-Technica's birthday. Bless their little cotton socks. 60 years of age they are. This new moving coil utilizes a unified stylus cantilever formed from a single lab-grown diamond. In addition, the AT-MC 2022 adopts the same magnetic circuit originally developed for the recently launched AT-ART20, and I think we featured that cartridge a couple of weeks ago, was it now? Threaded mounting holes allow for easy installation into the chassis, thank goodness, while the chassis is made of titanium and aluminium with elastomer undercover to reduce resonance. The model comes with a specially designed walnut storage case featuring an acrylic window with laser engraved 60th anniversary logo and a serial number. In addition, the package uses traditional Japanese Akizen washi paper, forgive me if I've butchered that pronunciation. Only 60 of these cartridges will be made. The price is high, as you might expect, for a cantilever made entirely of diamond. So we are looking at £8,700 or 10,000 euros. For our next news item, we're staying with Audio-Technica and a pair of high-end headphones. And specifically the ATH-W 2022 headphones from Audio-Technica, also helping to celebrate the company's birthday. These are closed-backed dynamic designs, and the designs are entirely sourced and assembled in Japan. Using the Japanese marquee lacquer technique, the headphone housings incorporate hand-painted sakura, which is cherry blossom, and Ho Phoenix designs. Again, apologies if I've messed up the pronunciation, which I probably have, with mother of pearl on the left and right sides, respectively. The housings crafted from mosaic or Japanese birch and finished with traditional urushi lacquer. The ear pads and headband are made from deerskin. The headphones themselves include two detachable 3-meter cloth-wrapped cables with A2 DC connectors at the headphones, made from 7N class DUCC, which is dia ultra crystallized copper. One of the cables ends in a 6.3mm termination, gold-plated stereo plug of course, and the other ends with a 4-pin XLRM balance connector. Price? Well, again, these are limited headphones. They will be numbered, and there is only 100 of these going to be built, and that will be it. Price, again, will be high. We're looking at £7,900 or 9,000 euros. Next up, well, we're moving from headphones to a headphone amplifier. Now, last week I published a video looking at second-hand, possibly, Auris Poison 8 floor standing speakers. Well, I did mention in that video that I'd received news about an Auris headphone amplifier, and here it is. And it's called the Nirvana 4 from Auris, and it supports headphone impedances from 32 to 600 ohms. Intriguingly, this headphone amplifier also features a separate power supply. It also arrives in an aluminium case, ECC82 and EL34 valves to be specific, plus manually wound C-core transformers created by the company itself. Other components include high-end brand names like Rubicon and Mundorf. Oh, and I liked the included VU meters on the front, plus the toggle switches for power and gain. Headphone outputs include 6.35mm and balanced. The only price I have is a dollar price of $5,799. That's your news. Let's talk viewer questions. First up, we have a question from Auntie. Well, I'm not sure about the second half of your name, Auntie, so I'm just going to call you Auntie. And Auntie says, I have an Audio-Technica LP 120X USB turntable with a Nagaoka MP110H cartridge connected to an HiFi Zen phono amplifier that is connected to a Rotel RA1570 using balanced XLR cables. The loudspeakers are Bowers & Wilkins 603. My question is, Will I hear a big improvement in sound overall if I upgrade to moving coil, let's say the Hanna SL, or for around 600 to 700 watt? I would rather upgrade the whole turntable to something like a Riga P1 or P2. Well, Auntie, put it this way, I would say no on the moving coil. In fact, I think you're maxed out as it is with the Nagaoka. The reason is that the tone arm on your turntable will become the bottleneck from this point on, and I really don't feel you'll get the best value from fitting an MC cartridge on the 120. In effect, the cartridge would be too good for the tone arm. Next step, I would say, from this point will be, yes, a turntable upgrade. Thing is though, where are you from? What denomination are we talking about here? Now, if I had a guess, I would say you're from Russia. Tell me if I'm wrong. It's just a guess, as I say. I have no idea about the cost of hi-fi in Russia, so pardon my ignorance. What I'm going to do is give you the next best thing, euros. For a bit over that budget, well, I know you like Rigas, so I would have gone for a Riga Planner 3 rather than a 1 or a 2. But, as I say, I think you're going to be over budget. So, my preference anyway, to be honest with you, would be a pro-ject Evo, which would give you sound quality, but it would blend lots of possible future upgrade options. I hope that helps just a little bit. And now, kind of related to that question, is a new question from David Barker. Hello, David. Having watched this video a few times, blimey, you're an eager beaver. And incidentally, David is talking about the pro-ject Pro review and the pro-ject debut Carbon Evo a few times. You are relentless, David, I'll say that for you. And also the debut Evo upgrade video. David, I am honoured by your dedication. My question would be, which should I start with after years away from vinyl, but still having vinyl from 40 plus years ago to present? And I'm going to be in the market for a preamp, and soon after, better speakers. I could go with the Carbon Evo and put money into a good preamp, then add some of the upgrades you went over. Or just go with the Debut Pro and be done with it. Well, David, to get the best out of any of the turntables you mentioned, you will need a quality phono amplifier, and I assume that's what you're talking about here. So if you're on a limited budget, and I don't know what that figure is, unfortunately you didn't mention that, then I would go for the Evo. Grab a quality phono amplifier at the same time, and then later on upgrade from that point when you can. And finally, let's talk to Leslie Reed. Hello, Leslie. And Leslie says, I have a Crosley. I believe it has a standard cheap ruby or sapphire needle. Would upgrading to a diamond needle be better, or conical or elliptical? Now, you asked a direct question, Leslie, so I apologize for pontificating just for a moment. Now, I know there's plenty of people out there with next to no spare cash, especially these days, and I'm all for people listening to music in any way they can, because that's my priority too. But I've got to say, Crosley, well, it's not one of my favourite companies, just to let you know. If you look at its suitcase type all-in-one record players, for example, just as an example, they look like they offer great value for money, but in fact, the company is in the business of taking as much money from you as possible and not giving you a lot in return. More style than substance, you might say. Which to me isn't really fair. That said, some Crosleys are better than others. Apart from those ubiquitous suitcase models I mentioned, Crosley does offer its C range, so it'll be C and then a number. They feature a series of decent designs built by third parties. Now, I say all of this, Leslie, because I'm not actually sure which model you have and which model I'm providing advice for. Even so, you did give me a clue by mentioning ruby and sapphire styli. So, I would assume you're referring to a suitcase model. Correct me, of course, if I'm wrong on that. Now, if you do wish to change the stylus that you have there, then Diamond will offer a longer lasting playback. It's just a tougher component all round. The others will wear out faster. Now, as far as conical and elliptical is concerned, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong again, that elliptical is even an option here. So I think it's going to be conical anyway as a default. On a general note, Leslie, if you do own a suitcase model and you find yourself in the future sometime with a few pennies to spare and you fancy upgrading your hi-fi, then give me a shout in the comments and I'll help the best I can. Finally, before I go, let me give you a hint, a tip. Now, this is a very quick one and will be obvious to many of you out there, but please, 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 when you cite your hi-fi components, make sure that they are cited properly, and that means level. Do not place your hi-fi components on an uneven surface or any sloping surface or similar. I sometimes find this when I see hi-fi placed on non-hi-fi specific furniture, just general furniture, and maybe someone's placed some hi-fi on the top of some sort of coffee table, for example. Such things are not always level. If your hi-fi components sit at an angle, then this can add unnecessary stress on certain internal components. You can also cause stress on connecting cables too. Turntables are even worse. If your turntable sits at an angle, then your poor stylus might be fighting gravity to get to the end of the record, and that's going to mean it'll favour one side of the groove over another, and that might cause sound distortion, excessive groove wear, and even skipping. So invest in a bubble level. In general terms, basic DIY store bubble levels are fine for gauging basic surfaces or larger components like amplifiers. But if you want to check if your turntable is level, then I would pick a more specialist hi-fi quality bubble level. These tend to be smaller and lighter and are ideal for sensitive or sprung turntable plinths. The one I use is it's a fairly expensive £60, I think it is, example from Avid, which works beautifully, I have to say. The Avid bubble level also arrives with a built-in 7-inch single adapter. So what you can do is put the adapter over the center spindle and the bubble level fits over the top of that. So the bubble level can be right at the center of your turntable for an accurate reading. Saying that, there is a host of alternatives out there. I've seen a pro-ject bubble level for somewhere around £25, and I've seen examples from Audiophile and Roxanne for under a tenner. Now, before we go, let's talk about that trivia question. You need an answer. And the question is, which band took their name from a novel originally published in French in 1956 under the title La Chute? And the answer is The Fall, the literal translation of La Chute by Albert Camus. And of course, the answer was hiding in view. And that's your lot. Thank you very much for staying to the end of the video. And if I could ask you, please, down yonder, if you could possibly click on like and subscribe, well, I'd be very happy indeed. Also, down there are chapter headings. If you want to navigate around this video, you can bounce about and skip stuff. You're very welcome to do that. Also, there are links down there for my website and Facebook group and Patreon page. And at my Patreon page, you will see the latest episode of my Hi-Fi Tour, Part 3, I think it is. So that's exclusive to Patreon. Check it out. Lots of other exclusive stuff over there as well. So I'll be back on Monday with something extraordinarily hi-fi, and I hope to have your company then. Until that time, folks. Bye bye for now.